In today's show, we're going to talk about errors in PowerApps, right? You get these runtime errors that pop up, your users complain all the time. Why don't you get these error messages and all this? And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to capture all of them, handle all of them, even log them all if you wanted, right? So help you a little bit more error management, all using the PowerApps OnError property. Should be fun. But first, here's our intro. Hi, my name is Shane Young with PowerApps 911. Those guys. And today, it's all about PowerApps OnError. So OnError is a property of your app, and what it does is it lets you capture all your unhandled errors. What the heck's an unhandled error? We'll explain that along the way. But basically, those runtime errors that your users are seeing, like, hey, why don't I get this user profile that? Or why don't I get this warning or that warning? And so what we're going to do is we're going to build logic into our app so that if there are errors that happen that we didn't anticipate, right, the unhandled ones, then we're going to have this to kick in and we can say, you know what, I want to email me the error message, or I want to filter out and not do anything with these error messages, right? Sometimes you want to suppress some of those errors. That's okay as well. So anyway, that's the idea of this video is we're going to work our way through all the logic that's possible to you with the OnError property. Sound like fun? I thought so. Let's switch over to my desktop and take a look. Okay, so over here on my desktop, I've laid some groundwork, but I haven't done anything that you care about, right? I've set up some different boxes to do some things. I've connected to a SharePoint list. We're going to show it all along the way, but I really just kind of am ready to get diving into it. Because most often you're going to find yourself wanting to add this to an existing app anyway, right? You've got that big giant app that works perfectly 99% of the time. I have several of those. And then you have these occasional people that get weird things that happen, and you don't even know like where it's happening, so you want to be able to trap for that and deal with it. And in our last video, we talked about IfError, right? So IfError was down here, and so with IfError, we were able to create what's called a handled error. So that was that function. We said, hey, IfError, and then if the number 1 was divided by 0, which we know is not allowed, then give them a message that says you can't divide by 0. If not, don't, right? But that's called a handled error. So this one would not trigger the process that we're about to set up. So if you didn't watch last week's video, go check that one out. It was really cool. A lot of people skipped it for whatever reason. I assume you're all on holiday. That's okay. But so handled errors are ones like this that you've already built logic into capture. Okay. Unhandled errors are more like the traditional sense, right? So here's one. It says, hey, take 1 and divide it by whatever's in this box. So if we go up here and change this box from 20 to 0, we get an error message, invalid operation, division by 0, right? And it's unhandled. That means that PowerApps threw up the error. PowerApps like, I don't know what to do with this. So they're just going to show it back to the user because you haven't given it logic. So we could go do the if error and go add that ourselves. But sometimes you just want to capture all of that, right? It's mad. So what you can do is you can go over here to the app property itself. You can see all my practice. Let's just delete all my practice out. And so here is a property, right? So by clicking app over here on the left, and then saying OnError from the dropdown, the same place you have on start, you have start screen, all those things. So by choosing OnError, that gives you the ability to put in code here that's going to run every time you have one of those unhandled errors. So the easiest thing to start with here is just a simple notify, right? So the notify function does a little pop-up, right? But we can control it. So we can say, hey, you got the error, I can't type. And then we could do, that is not how you spell error, we don't care. And then you can say ampersand, and you're going to do this. You're going to say first error. So first error is a property that returns literally the first error, right? But the key is that first error is a record. So it would be first error. And then when we do a dot here, we can see that I can get the message, where it was observed, the source, the details, the kind. So all these different properties about this particular error. So let's just first start with the message because that one probably makes the most sense to us. So you got the error, and then there's the message. And from the control, and then we'll do another ampersand, and we'll say first error this time. And we'll say source, right? So where did that come from? So now if we put this little bit of code in our OnError property, we say play. And so if we go back up here, change this to 12, it works. If we change this to 0, you got the error, misspelled, invalid operation division by 0 from the control label 5.text. And if we look, closing that thing, such a pain. If we go over here, we would see that that was label 5, right? So that is where the error message came from. So OnError lets you grab errors no matter where they happen, right? Same thing, this little box here is hooked up to this user profile, right? So if I just delete this out, Control X, there you go. You got the error office user profile failed, blah, 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 from the control label v3, right? So one place that we can add error checking, error catching logic, but it's going to run and take care of us no matter where it came from. Okay, we'll put that one back for now, so I'll probably want that. Okay, so that's the first key to this. Now that I know how to capture all my errors, and when I think about this whole problem, right, it's like I think about my really big complex apps where I've got 1,000 failure points where I want to be able to capture these, right? This is where OnError would be awesome. So what I want to do is I want to have an error log list. So I went over to SharePoint and made a simple list. I renamed title to be error, and then I just made a column, a single line of text called control name. So the idea here is that now when I get an error, not only will I show the user, but me, the app maker, I want to know these things are happening too, right? So I would just go up here, make, all right, OnError, do that, just like you would in normal Power Apps, and then we'd say patch, you have to spell it right though, and then error log, and then defaults, error log, right? So we just want to create a new record in our list. And so then for our patching here, what are we going to say? We're going to say error is going to be this first error.message. We'll just copy this so I don't make any typos. And then we'll do a comma, and then we'll say control name, and then first error.source. And we could get more information, right? You could grab that error kind or the error types, all those other things. I'm not worried about those. Once you figure out this stuff is there, you can get whatever you want. But so now I should see both a notification and a patch. So now if we go up here, and what about this time, instead of dividing by 0, we try to type in the word 3. So look, by trying to type in 3, it said, hey, you've got a bunch of errors. So you can see that the label popped up here. And we went and wrote into my SharePoint list a whole bunch of times. And look, if you look at the messages, the value TH, the value THR, the value THR, and then 3 all the way spelled out. So it actually generated 4 errors, right? Because how does this control work? As fast as I was typing, it was automatically trying to re-render. So probably what I should do in this case to make my life even better is I probably should have said, hey, your delay output is true. And so now if we do the same thing, let's type in 4 this time. We should only see 1 error message. So we're typing 4. Because I typed in one fell swoop, it all went and we just got 4, right? But look, in our SharePoint list, we were getting the message, we're getting label5.txt, we got the person and the date. Now, but I didn't patch person and date. And so let's just refresh here, see that they're all here. There they are. So just remember that your SharePoint, right, it automatically has columns for created and created by. So there's no reason for PowerApps to patch that. It's always going to be the person that was generating it. So I was trying to cut down on the amount of stuff that I was writing. So I'm just using those default SharePoint columns to push that over. But the created by will be the user that was using the app at the time. You also might consider when you're thinking about this patch, is there other things you could send? Do you want to send, maybe you have a app version number that you've hard-coded in the app somewhere. Maybe you want to send that over. Maybe you want to send, like I said, there's other columns. We had those, remember if you go first error, so we had source, we had message, but we've also got details and kind and observed. So you could send any of those. I was just trying to make this simple. All right, so you can send whatever you want, patch whatever you want. Who cares? And I patched SharePoint. You could patch Dataverse. You could patch SQL. You could patch Excel table. I don't care. Put it somewhere that's meaningful for you. Okay? So there you go. So that's the first, or that's a big chunk of it, right? Is this ability just to grab these errors and write them off. Now, the other thing that you might want to do is take a nap. No, it is Monday. You cannot take a nap. What you might want to do is you might want to sometimes suppress certain error messages, right? And so, for example, I know from experience that a lot of you get a lot of error messages from the user profile service. You try to use it, but man, like if they type in Bob here, it's all mad and you're getting a bunch of error messages. You're like, I don't even know what's happening here. And so one of the things that you might want to do is maybe you just want to get rid of the user profile. And so in that case, we could come back up here. Look, it's angry. Network error. It's mad. So we could go back over here and we could actually say, you know what? I want to suppress all of those. So if we go here and we said if, we could have if logic. So we could say something like if user profile is in first error.message. So if that string is in the message that comes out, then I don't want to do anything. So what am I going to do? I'm going to wrap that again in a not. Kind of want the opposite of that. So if that is not in the message, so that means do these steps for everything that doesn't have that error. But if that error is in there, if user profile is in there, we're just going to literally do nothing, right? So by filtering this out completely, even if we go back down here and we try to type in, something completely wrong, we don't get notified, we don't get logged, nothing is happening because we are handling the error and we're basically saying, don't do anything. We filter that out. But if we go back and put a 0 up here, then our other logic still runs. It still updates over here as you'd expect. So we're getting our behavior, but what we've done is we have completely suppressed the user profile messages. And I can't tell you how often people want to do that. Now, in this control, still angry. It's like, I don't know what to do, but it's not right? And remember, last week we talked about handling this one a little bit more elegantly, right? There's other ways to do this. But if you just globally want to say, I never want to see a user profile message again, we can do that. So if not in the message, right? So we're just using the in operator to avoid those messages. Not too bad. There is another property here that you might see referenced sometimes. I've not had to use it at all. But so first error is the first error from the errors table. It's the first record, right? And so you can just do record.field, and that's how we're seeing the message. There is another one. It is called AllErrors. And so AllErrors has message as well, but AllErrors is a table. So occasionally you might run into scenarios. I have not ran into one of these, but I saw them in the documentation, so I thought I'd mention this. Occasionally you might run into error scenarios where you're getting multiples and you need to check the whole table. So AllErrors is the table. Every time that I've had to implement this thus far, first error.message, right, because the error messages wipe out each other pretty fast, has worked just fine for me. But just in case you need this AllErrors, you have it. And I believe even if we put this in here, it should work the same, right? So if we put 3, it's happy. If we put words, it's angry. If we get rid of the anger and we go back over here and we put in Bob. Okay, now you see this error. Network error when using patch function, value must be at least 255 characters in length. Okay, so what happened in this particular case was it tried to patch something that was bigger than 255 characters. Remember, we used a SharePoint list over here for error, and I used the default title, which has a 255 character limit. So if you're having those types of scenarios, then what you're going to do, back over here to app. So what I was doing was I was saying, hey, when I patch, instead of patching the whole error message, I said left and then comma 255. And so that way it'll only patch the first 255. So if you're running into error messages that are too long, that would be how you'd handle that. And so then now if we go back to change this from Bob to Shane, now it's not going to cooperate. Of course it's not, right? So Office 365 users, let's go see if I can see what I did wrong. I'm sure I did something wrong up here. If not, user profile. Yeah, so see when I switched to AllErrors, I had this, but if we go back to first error, we'll do that. Let's try this again. So let's change this back to Chewy. Okay, so now we're back to the thing we want, right? We've got the suppressed error messages. You can see the really long error message did get written a couple of times though. So there you go. So a little bit of unhandled error handling, right? And I want to point out like this, we're showing these very simple examples, but say for example, if I had a patch here, it's going to catch this just the same. So patch error log, and what are you going to patch in the error log? You're going to patch defaults error log. And so then here, I'm just going to try to patch in test into the control name, right? So control name is test. But what I know secretly is that the error or the title field is required. So this should fail. So if we press the button, let's just press this, press button, right? You got the error, network error when using the patch, the field title is required. So you shouldn't be using this to capture those types of error messages, right? What should you have done? You should have made it, they couldn't click the button until they gave you all the required fields, right? Some conditional formatting. But I wanted you to see that you could do this. You want to see one that breaks it though, that I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this? So remember, what did I tell you? OnError only works for unhandled error messages, right? So things that you didn't plan for, right? There's the known knowns, the unknown knowns, and the known unknown known. I don't know. I'll confuse myself. You remember that if you're old enough. But what's really interesting though, how many of you ever write code like this, right? You say set var record to be patch and that, right? That's a pretty common pattern, right? What happens if I press the button now? We'll hit play, we'll press the button. It didn't work. It didn't error. Why? Because if we look at var record, it wrote the error into var record, right? So this is a handled error all of a sudden. I was not expecting this behavior. So I think what you would need to do is something to the effect of this, right? So you'd say if is blank or error. What do we want to check? We want to check to see if var record is. Then we need to do something, right? And so what are we going to do? We're going to use the error function to create our own error, right? And we'll say patch failed for right now. Oh, is not happy with that. Oh yeah, because it was expecting this to be a record, right? So this would be, so some curly brackets around it. And then what we do here, we'll say message patch failed. And then if you hover now, then it's like, hey, you're missing the kind. And so then we'd go here and we'd say kind equals Shane's error. And then it's going to tell us we're missing something else. What else are we missing? We're missing source. And we'll call that button 4. What else are we missing? Oh, kind can't just be Shane's error. Sorry. Kind is error kind. So basically we have to make our own error message, right? And so we're just going to say edit permission. I don't know. But it doesn't matter, right? You can make this whatever you want. You should probably find something more meaningful. But now that we've done this, now if we say play and press the button, look, our app error, you got the error, right? I'm kind of glad I misspelled that. It makes it obvious that I did that. Patch failed from the button, from the control button 4. So that is another piece of this puzzle as well, right? Is we have the ability to use what is called the error function to throw our own errors. So since setting var record was a handled error, but we didn't want it to be a handled error, we then had to go back and check for that in the second part here. And so this is how we then were able to use our global error logic in this case, which we probably didn't want to do, right? We probably want to say if is blank or var record. We probably just would have done a notify right here. But either way, I wanted you to see that you have the ability to create and generate your own magical errors. That's kind of neat, right? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Okay, I think that's enough for one day, right? Error handling is important. Error handling is fun. Error handling, I don't have a third thing that rhymes, so to quit. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, leave them below. You know, if you didn't watch last week's video on turning on IfError and enabling that feature, you'll probably need that for all these stuff to work. So make sure you go watch that video as well. But yeah, I guess with that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day. Hey, me again. Before you go, click on the subscribe button, right? Join the list of 100,000 plus people that have subscribed already. Or if you need any help, right? Check us out at PowerApps 911. We do big projects, little projects. We do training. We do everything, and we can help you. Or if you want to see more videos, you probably do, then just click on the playlist above. Cool? Thanks, and have a great day.